world of that book?
Well, one of the big reasons why I wrote him was because it was, I was at university and I'd brought all of my mates. We'd all gone to the same high school and we all went to the same uni, Sydney Uni. And even though we went to the same university, we did different courses, so we all sort of started to separate. And we started to feel those bonds start to stretch. And we're like, okay, we've all got to come together at Manning Bar, which is the university bar. And we've just got to, everyone bring someone that you've met at one of your courses and we'll hang out. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. So we all bring our friends, and me, true to form, I arrive 20 minutes late. And so I go in and sit down. I'm sitting opposite this kid called Chris. And we end up spending the whole lunch just making fun of the same things, fanboying over the same sci-fi stuff. And it just, we clicked really well. I'm like, oh, wow, I've got to add this guy on Facebook. We've got to be best mates. And then he's like, oh, I've got to go. I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, oh, can you move your feet? Your legs are in the way. I'm like, oh, what? He's like, you're on my stuff. And I pull back and he had crutches on the floor. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so he stands up and I'm like, oh, what happened? Did you injure yourself? And he's like, no. And then he gets up and starts walking, and I realise from the knees down, his legs sort of skew out a bit. And then I realise that he has cerebral palsy. And the first thought that I have is, oh, lucky I'm not his friend. That would be really inconvenient for me. And I sat down and thought, it took me 2 seconds. I'm like, did I just have that thought?
You did.
That is, and I'm like, that is,
He did.
That is horrible. And the wonderful thing about creative writing is that, and I was so embarrassed by it, I immediately got up and go, this is my phone number, we are going to be best friends. And we ended up becoming really, really close. But the thing was, I was haunted by that first thought that I had. And I thought, the wonderful thing about creative writing is you can go back, and if you have those regrets, or if you have that, like, I was so ashamed of having that first thought, because there was an inbuilt prejudice in me to sit there and just see him as less than. And so I thought, you know what? I don't want kids to have that first thought the first time they meet someone with a particular disability. And so I thought, right, so I have to write this. And so he came in, he was very, very confident with his sexuality. He had sort of, he had come to terms with that, and he had a very supportive family. But he had a lot of difficulty reconciling his disability with that sort of stereotype that he had to be very outgoing and very sexual, but his disability meant that the first thing people thought of was, oh, he doesn't walk right. And so it was just trying to, and it was looking at what it's like to be a young gay man, but through disability.
And Sticks comes up with some fascinating temporary solutions to that in the book. I highly recommend reading that book. For many, many reasons, but that in particular.
Well, and one of the things that Will did that was really interesting to me was that thought that you had, you give it to somebody else in that book, and we get to see them from the outside. And so as well as kids, you know, getting to see Sticks as a person, they get to see what that thought looks like when you're separated from it. And I think that was really important as well.
Yeah.